Wargaming's birthday is here and they are treating us with a new premium tank you can buy for yourself. And it is going to be the British wheeled medium tank, the GSOR 10,000, nope, 1000, nope, 1010. There we go. And no, before you are scared, this tank is not going to be another EBR fiasco. It is quite a bit on the opposite. Then, this tank starts off with a 105mm gun. It has 360 alpha, which is okay, I guess. It's a bit weird because many other 105mm guns on tier 8 have 390 alpha. Keep that in mind. The base penetration is also not that good. It's a 218 with AP and 252 with APCR. However, the main gripe I have with this gun in that regard is that the standard rounds feel fairly slow, and it makes it very hard to do its purpose of this tank, being sniping. Also, it doesn't have hash, and I will most likely going to discuss this quite a lot in this video over and over again. It makes for me very little sense to give a tank with arguably bad DPM and arguably giving it to a nation which is known to use hash on its standard HE, aka just having more pen than usual, to not give it that pen. It only has 50mm of pen and 460 alpha. Because the alpha, that is good, but the pen is not. It's like, this tank just doesn't feel right. In general, I can already say this tank basically needs one tweak somewhere to make it a lot more fun and a lot more balanced than it is right now. Because adding to that, the GSOR doesn't really have good DPM. Like, it feels very, very, very bad. It cuts to around 2100 DPM if you have brothers in arms, use rations, and you use a rammer. That is just around 10 seconds flat reload. And again, 360 alpha. It's not really that good. On paper, it has great gun handling, great accuracy, and great aim time. But from my personal playtests, it just kind of feels like a little bit like a Guerrilla 15. While it has good stats on paper, it could be a little bit better. Like, it doesn't feel as good as it is. Maybe it's just, again, confirmation bias because you think, oh my god, the paper stats are amazing, and it isn't. Yeah, but it just kind of should need more, I think. Like, I think the main problem is that even though it has good accuracy on the move on paper, the fact that it is very fast and it needs quite a long time to slow down again makes it a lot less accurate because the circle stays quite big for quite some time. I did try to use it with improved rotation mechanisms, but I then went back to just using V-steps as it just feels more convenient to use, even though you turn a tiny bit slower. Also, it has 8 degrees of gun depression, which is okay, you can work with that, and it has 16 degrees of gun elevation, and this is a little bit annoying. It also does have another funny little quirk, which I should show you in just a second. Because one thing it has, which is fairly interesting when it comes to the gun depression, is the fact that on the rear it has 1 degree. Very often you might see in the background footage, which I show you, that this tank, I have to turn quite a bit to use some gun depression. So I can use, you can see it at the start of the game before and then later down the road when we are on Overlord. But this is very annoying. Armor wise, we don't really need to talk a lot. 60, 60, 45, 30, 15, 12. It's super, super weak. Obviously, you shouldn't shoot HE at it, which somebody did. You will see that also a little bit later. And it is a little bit a bait, I guess. But other than that, the armor is non-existent. RT can really, really royally screw you up. So keep that in mind. And no, the wheels don't really absorb that much shots. I did have like 2 wheel shots in my playtests. And if you get hit by the wheels, yeah, the tank becomes very, very, very slow. It's a much, much slower than what the wheeled vehicles are in World of Tanks. Adding to that, this vehicle also has, sadly enough, only 1,200 hit points. You might remember my review of the Object 274A, where I said, yo, 1,200 hit points feels very, very, very low. You basically cannot make any mistakes without already dying. Because a lot of other vehicles, which are arguably similar size or even bigger, have 1,400 hit points, while also having better armor. So it just feels like, no, like even the Bourrasque has 50 armor, 50 HP more. It's like, what? It's kind of weird. Also, the Bourrasque has roughly the same DPM, by the way. And we all know how OP the Bourrasque is, because it is a much faster, it has much better gun handling. And yes, it is faster, by the way. Because let's talk about the mobility on the GSOR. Because you might say, oh, it is a wheeled vehicle. Oh, it will be fast. Oh, it should behave like EBR. But it does not. Because A, it doesn't have a speed mode. And B, at least from my understanding, these tanks don't have a turning axis. They have tank steering, like the AMX 10 RC. They basically turn, as the name suggests, like a tank, where one side turns quicker or slows down to let you turn around off your wheels. And it makes it very annoying to drive at higher or even lower speeds, like you can't even circle at all anybody. And yes, you go 60 kph with great HP per ton ratio, but for some reason it takes very long to accelerate, which feels weird. It makes a little bit no sense. And the 30 kph in reverse is not that good either. Would have much rather seen like 45 or something, because it takes so long to get up to speed. And the fact that you need very long to turn around, because it generally feels like a battleship in that regard. And having not really much better top speed than your typical mediums, you're not really faster in a position than other mediums, you know? The tank basically feels like a medium, even though it should feel a little bit quicker, because that should be its gimmick, you know? Yeah, it's just sad, really. Like, I feel the potential of the tank, but it's one of those tanks where you think, damn, I surely did 3.5k damage, and then you look on the numbers and it's just 2k, and you're like, damn it. I wished I would have done more. Camo-wise, it's not bad, but there are definitely medium tanks which are by far a lot better. It's obviously not the worst, like for example a Revalorisé, but it's also not that good. And view range-wise, you're also on the lower end. You only have 380 meters, which means you can't use just vents. You have to use optics if you want to have proper view range. And this is also how I ran the tank in the majority of my games. I used stabs, I used rammer, and I used optics, because I tried to use turbo, but then again, speed is not your issue. Your issue is that you need to hit shots on the move and that you want to see something. And without optics, you are really blind as a bat. And if you use an IRM, it doesn't really help a lot with the turning speed, at least from my experience. So it's also like not really comfy to use. Adding to that, you also have very weird crew layout, which is a commander, which is also a radio operator and a gun and a loader, and then you have the gunner, which is also a loader. So you need on both employees, I wanted to say, but on both tankers, you need the intuition skill. But then again, it doesn't really matter at all, because yeah, you don't have hash. Overall, I would say the tank at the moment is just a 4 out of 10. Like, it is almost perfectly balanced, but it just needs a little bit more in some aspect. Like, maybe it's turn rate, maybe it's how should I say, maybe a little bit more DPM, 360 to 390 alpha. Maybe, and this is probably the thing which I would like to see the most, is they should just give flat out to also the Tick Tree wheelie boys more pen. Because then they would actually make them more unique compared to something like the Leopard 1. Because right now, the whole line and also the GSOR 10 looks like a worse version of a Leopard, a much worse version of a Leopard. They don't have better pen, they don't have better speeds, they don't have better DPM, they don't have more alpha, they don't even have hash, and they're much easier to penetrate and much more harder to use because of how fat they are, like me, you know. So yeah, I wish that Wargame would have given this tank at least more base penetration, more premium pen, to like 200, let's say 230 base pen and like 270 premium pen. That would have been great. And give the standard rounds also better shell velocity. That would have been interesting. But right now, I don't. It's just a collector's vehicle. It looks great. It looks great and it's unique-ish to play, but it's not a tank where I have to say, yo, it is a tank for the masses. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. Without a doubt, thank you so much for watching and see you around. Goodbye.